Hello and welcome again to another episode of the Long Gone Loser Rock Show. I am here today to talk about the new TV series Pistol, and I just finished watching it last night, and so I thought I would give a bit of a review and also a bit of a chat about my love for the Sex Pistols and how I discovered them and stuff like that. The Sex Pistols I heard way back in the day, sometime in the early 80s. We would watch a TV program. Now, I was just a kid, so I didn't really know that there was a thing called punk. I had no idea that there was a genre of music called punk. But I remember there was a TV show called Trax Music, and they played the video for Anarchy in the UK, and it really was so bizarre to me because the drummer was up the front and Johnny was behind him singing. That was so weird, and I'd never seen anything like it, and the song was just so strange, like I had no idea that there was a genre called punk music. To me, it was just another band, and they had this name called the Sex Pistols, and I knew that the name wasn't a name that you could go walking around talking about when you were that young, because people are going to be looking at you and probably wondering, what the hell your parents are doing telling you about words like that. It wasn't until a couple of years later when a friend of mine recorded onto a cassette tape for me The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. And I remember listening to it and finding the song Friggin' in the Riggin' very hilarious. Obviously, there's lots of swear words, and when you were that young, hearing a swear word is kind of like, ooh, mum and dad won't like this, and you get that kind of feeling of like, oh, this is rebellious or whatever. So immediately I became hooked on the Sex Pistols. Now, this would have been probably about 87, 88. And I was really into them. I'd only just discovered punk music, not, what the term punk was and that there was a genre of music called punk music like a year or two before. And I became really fixated on the sound of the Sex Pistols. I started reading about them, and people were saying all these things like, oh, the Sex Pistols can't play, it's just awful music, and, like all this sort of stuff, right? And I never bought into it, the whole Sex Pistols can't play thing, because the album Nevermind the Bollocks, to me, is a flawless classic. I bought this from Bank Street Records in Adelaide, which is no longer there, unfortunately, but it was $8, and I couldn't believe it when I got it home and cranked it up over how good this record is. Every single song on it is phenomenal. The guitar tone is incredible, and his playing is so good. I don't know where they got this whole, they couldn't play thing from. Paul Cook's drumming on this, he became one of my influences when I started to learn drums. I really liked his drum fills. The guy I thought was an amazing drummer. There's so many different rumors over, Steve playing bass on this or Glenn Matlock playing bass on this. I don't really know the definitive answer to who actually played bass on this album. In the TV show Pistol, they address it as Steve did it all. But I've heard that, Glenn played on it. So who knows? Maybe that's just one thing that's going to disappear into the world of who knows. But this is really cool. You got this inner sleeve here. And, it says on the album, obviously Sid Vicious is on it, but in the TV show they say that, like he says, I'll do my bass, and Steve says, no, mate, I took care of it, it's all right. Because I think that in the TV show, if my memory serves me correctly, that Sid was in hospital after an overdose. But Nevermind the Bollocks, phenomenal record. Absolutely love this album. And I bought this probably, 88? I think I got this record, and it blew my mind. The Great Rock and Roll Swindle I bought from Carrig Records in Parabanks, in Salisbury, in Adelaide, which I don't think is there anymore. Or maybe it still is, I don't know. I haven't been back to Salisbury in a very long time, maybe 25 years or so, but maybe even longer. The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, I bought it from there. It was $14.99, but I really wanted my own copy of it. And when I picked it up and flipped it over and I saw this on the other side, I was immediately like, what the fuck? And then you've obviously, you've got the gatefold sleeve there, which I can't really show because there's a naked woman on there, and it'll probably get this YouTube channel shut down because these are the times we live in. You got this on the inside, which is all incorrect. Like the track listing, it's not correct at all. Like in half of the songs that it says that are on there are actually not on there. On this record, there is no version of Rock Around the Clock. The Rock Around the Clock is actually on this version of the Great Rock and Roll Swindle. So, but this got listened to all the time. Like they start off with Johnny Be Good and go into Roadrunner, and it's pretty funny. But there are songs on here like, you know, Lonely Boy and, you know, Silly Thing, Bell Someone's a Gas. And like those songs are so good. So good. And obviously the version of My Way's on here with Sid Vicious. One of my favorite Sex Pistols songs is actually The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, the actual song title track off this album. I love that song. I think it's just such a good rock and roll song. But yeah, I love this record, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. It's just a great record. It's very funny. So a couple of songs on there I skip, obviously, like the God Save the Queen Symphony, I don't care for. I don't really listen to orchestral music, got nothing against it, just doesn't do anything for me. And what's the, I can't remember, the disco song that's on it, I don't care for either. So this is very cool. This is just an aside, but have you ever noticed that Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue is pretty much the same build-up at the beginning as Holidays in the Sun? Wouldn't surprise me at all, and I'm sure that's where Nikki Sixx got it from. But yeah, great songs, both of them. So when it comes to singles, I don't have a lot of Sex Pistols stuff. I don't have anything rare, I should say. But, you know, as I just showed you, Holidays in the Sun. I got this on a record store day. Pretty Vacant. It's one of my favourite tunes by them, so I was pretty stoked to find this. Pretty cool release. I've never seen it around since, but it's cool. It's cool to have. I found this in a junk shop, and they call it the X Pistols, and it's apparently like a band that Malcolm put together or something like that. I don't really know the full story of it, but apparently it's not the actual members of the Sex Pistols. And if you have a look at the names of the band members, like, yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, I found this for like $1, and I just bought it because it looked Sex Pistols-ish. But yeah, apparently it's not them at all. I got this one. This is on Man's Ruin Records. I think there is a coloured vinyl version of it. This one's a black one. I found this for like $2, and it's pretty cool. Just a demo version of No Feelings. Here's my old beaten up copy of God Save the Queen. This cost me $2, and it was $2 well spent, even though this cover is absolutely shot to shit. It's not rare. It's not a special pressing or anything like that. In fact, it came from a thing called the Pistols pack, which I think was like a clear plastic sleeve fold away thing that unfolded out to all the 7 inches at the time. And so, but like I said, I found this one used, and it was like $2. And I couldn't leave it there because I didn't have it, and I like 45s. And I especially like God Save the Queen. I think it's a brilliant song. Brilliant song. Here's another one I found from that same store. I bought the others for $2, and them doing a song called Black Leather. Again, it's from the Pistols pack, but just cool to have. And this one I found on one of my last trips to America. I was in a record store that had a lot of bootlegs and stuff like that. And I don't know where they bought them from. It was in the used section. But I found this one here, which is Sid Vicious Swindle, which is pretty cool. I'd never seen this ever in my life, and so I had to grab it. And it's on clear purple. Pretty cool. This record is like one of those unauthorized records that used to come out in the early 90s or something like that. What this is basically a collection of demos, and some of the songs, it's rumored that it's not even the Sex Pistols. That's all I know. It's rumored that the Pistols aren't playing on it, especially this song called Dancing on the Doll, which is the first song on side 2. I think Dancing on the Doll is a fantastic song, and whoever wrote it did a great job, and it's a really cool tune. But, you know, like I said, apparently some of the recordings on here aren't even the Sex Pistols playing it. I don't know if that's true or not, but still, it's pretty cool to have. It's got like a gatefold sleeve, you've got all the lyrics there, and it even comes with a poster. Pretty cool. But yeah, this is something I picked up for like $5 from Big W, I think it was. And it's worth it because it's just a cool thing to have, regardless of what the rumors are about this recordings. If you know anything that you can shed some light on this, please do. Please leave us something in the comments below. I mean, I could probably jump on Google and find it out myself, and I probably will. But for other people who, you know, don't want to do that, you can leave a comment below talking about this record and the recordings on it. And Steve and Paul, if you're watching this and you know the truth about this, please feel free to comment. Not that you will see this video. But yeah, very, very cool. This is a track listing. They're not the recordings that are on the albums. These are all like demos or something like that. That's why people are saying it's possibly not the Sex Pistols playing on this. Do we know the truth? I guess we'll never find out, unless one of the Pistols says, yes, it's correct. On the 22nd of October 1996, the Sex Pistols reunion came through Adelaide. It was at the Theberton Theatre. It was with Skunk Anansie, it was with Goldfinger, and it was with 1 Inch Punch. I should know this because I have the poster of it. In fact, I took the poster down off the wall and here it is here. And I love that poster. I still think it's one of the greatest posters I have. So as you can see, the lineup is pretty killer. You've got Skunk Anansie, who I always thought was a weird band to put on the bill, but it seemed to work. You've got Goldfinger, you've got 1 Inch Punch, and you have the Sex Pistols. Now, remember, 1 Inch Punch opened up the show. They were great as always, and they played to a small crowd, but it was still a very appreciative crowd. A lot of people hung out in the bar because they didn't know that band. And I remember I was really excited to see Goldfinger because they had just kind of like blown up a little bit in Australia with their song. And I liked that song and I liked that record. And I remember they played one song and then the singer stopped and said, should we even play? There's nothing punk rock about this show. And people were actually cheering like them to get off the stage, but they stayed on the stage, thank God, and they kept playing their whole set. I remember Skunk Anansie came on and I didn't really care for him. It wasn't really my sort of music. So I'm sure if I saw it today, I'd probably think differently. I don't know. But I remember at that time, I just wasn't into it. Not to say it was bad, it just wasn't my thing. And, you know, I was a pop punk kid at that period of my life in 96, and I was listening to a lot of NoFX and Blink-182 and Screeching Weasel and all that stuff, which I still love to this day. But that was where I was totally focused on at that time. I was just hard into punk music. I just wanted to hear punk music. And Skunk Anansie, I guess, probably didn't fall under that punk umbrella. The Sex Pistols came out. The crowd went absolutely insane. They opened up with Bodies, and they just went through all the hits that you wanted to hear. And I remember as they left the stage that night, Johnny said to the crowd, we'll be back when we need more money. They must have done really well on that tour because they never came back. But still, it was great to see the Sex Pistols reunion. I remember we won tickets. It was $50 to go, but we won tickets off the radio station and we went. And it was awesome. I loved it. A lot of people were saying that didn't go were like saying, oh, I heard it was shit. Well, you heard wrong because it wasn't. It was great. They sounded amazing. I remember Steve Jones's guitar tone was so freaking awesome. And I just listened to him play, you know, his Les Paul through his amps, and I just sat there and thinking like, fuck, they sound good. They really do sound good. So I'm glad that I got to see them because I guess now they'll never ever perform ever again. But it was awesome to see them. It really was. So there we go. That was the night I saw the Sex Pistols in October of 96 in Adelaide at the Theberton Theatre, and it was awesome. I'm glad I went. So that's my connection with the Sex Pistols and how I discovered them and things like that. But now to the TV show, Pistol. Pistol is based on Steve Jones' book, Lonely Boy. And if you haven't read this, I highly recommend checking it out. It is a great read. Steve Jones is a very funny guy, and this book is no different. He writes with a lot of wit, and I actually like his sense of humor. I found it very funny, and I thought it was a bit of a quick read too. It's not, I mean, it's a thick book, but it's a fast read, especially if you like music biographies. And, you know, I love the Sex Pistols. You know, I had to get this as soon as it comes out. I do have Johnny's books, 2 of his books. I don't know if he's done any more than that, but I've got 2 of his books, and they're entertaining too. You know, I might not agree with everything Johnny Rotten says, but I do find his books very, very entertaining. I do know for a fact that he does not like the Pistol TV show and said that it belongs on Disney. I'm not taking sides because I just don't care. I went into Pistol with the thought that I just want to be entertained. And that is exactly what the TV show did. It's 6 episodes, so it's pretty easy to get through. And, you know, the characters, they're okay. Like, you know, they're all right. And in fact, I got to say, Sydney Chandler as Chrissy Hind, she does an amazing job. And she looks great. She looks a lot like Chrissy Hind. If you don't know who Chrissy Hind is, you're falling backwards in your love for the Pretenders. And you should rectify that. Because the Pretenders are awesome. And there's Chrissy Hind. And Sydney Chandler does such a good version of Chrissy Hind that, wow, you can see she's got everything down. The swagger, the coolness, the hairdo. She looks great as Chrissie Hynde. And yeah, how good are the Pretenders? Hugely underrated. So she's nailed that part well. Some of the other characters I think didn't really look, exactly like the thing. But, I mean, it's hard to find identical people. Malcolm is played by Thomas Brodie Sangster, who's done like a bazillion things. And I can't name any of them because I can't remember them, but he's done so much. And I thought he was a pretty good Malcolm. Like, from the interviews that I've seen of Malcolm, I think there was definitely similarities there. And I think, actually, to be honest, all the characters obviously sat down and watched interviews with the people that they were, going to be playing and studied them, because some of the nuances that, Anson Boone does of Johnny Rotten, like, I thought they were very similar. Definitely very similar. I also thought that Tallulah Riley doing Vivienne Westwood, she does a great job. Steve is played by Toby Wallace, and I'd say that, he did a pretty decent job. I think it would be hard to play these characters because, especially these actors that are playing them, were not born at the time when the Pistols were around. They weren't around when the punk thing was happening. And so I guess it would be harder to really grasp that era. But that's not to say that they did a bad job, because they didn't. In fact, I was entertained through the whole thing. It's only 6 episodes long, so it's not a huge investment of your time. But I find that if you do like the Sex Pistols, don't go in thinking, oh, this is going to be the definitive version of the Sex Pistols story. It's not. And it never would be. And why should it be? It's a biopic that's done to entertain people. Just like the Motley Crue movie was done to entertain you. I'm sure the Motley Crue movie was not 110% accurate either. But this show is not going to be 110% accurate, because you got to remember it's taken from one person's book is what it's based on, and they're obviously going to add things into it to make it more entertaining. Did I enjoy Pistol? Yes, I did. I had fun. I was like, oh, this is really cool to see that a band like the Sex Pistols that probably don't need the press or the attention. We're getting attention. Everybody who's into punk music knows who the Sex Pistols are. And if you don't, I highly recommend you check out Nevermind the Bollocks, because it's an amazing record from start to finish. It should be said that Steve Jones was the executive producer on this. Now, what that actually means in the scope of things, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he was there on set looking at things or how much input he actually had into the TV show. But what I can tell you is that if you just want to watch 6 episodes, roughly explaining like punk history in the UK with the way that the band started to its implosion, that's probably the closest you're going to get to it until, the 4 guys come together, Glenn, Paul, Steve, and John, and do their definitive story. Which, if you do want a really good story, check out Julian Temple's follow-up to obviously he did the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, but he also did The Filth and the Fury many years later, and that's really a solid watch, and you should definitely check it out. The interviews are great. I highly recommend you check out all of those too. What I will do is I will recommend that if you just go into watching a biopic and you just take it for what it is, which is pure entertainment, you're going to have a much better time enjoying the TV shows or the films or whatever. Just enjoy it for what it is. The thing that I liked most about Pistol is that those who do see it will probably go back and check out the Sex Pistols catalogue and realise how great those songs are. That's the one positive that I really do hope comes out of this TV show, because those albums are great, the songs are great, and this whole bullshit about them not being able to play was the biggest crock of shit ever. The Sex Pistols could play, and they could play really well, and they created something. They created a gem, and it's a great gem. So anyway, that is my story about how I discovered the Sex Pistols and about the TV show Pistol. And Jacob Slater, who plays Paul Cook, I believe this is his acting debut or something like that. So if that is correct, he did really good. He did really, really good. Like I said, Pistol is now streaming. Go check it out if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But go into it with a mind of, yeah, this is probably going to be more exaggerated or more glitzy than you would like it to be. And, just know that no one's ever going to get it 100% right. You have to understand that. And you will enjoy it more if you just let that all go. Forget about hoping that everything has to be 110% perfect all the time and 100% correct, because that's not how life is. One of the things that I did love about Pistol was how they put in archival footage from the 70s and mixed it in with the TV show. So you'll see so much like going on, like that Bernard guy complaining about punk music and stuff like that, interspersed with, you know, the actors from this show, like just doing the Sex Pistols stuff. It's really well done. I liked that. I really, really enjoyed that. And I was wondering how much fun the people who recorded the music for that were enjoying recording the sloppiest, like messiest versions of those songs that they possibly could do. I think that that would have been a lot of fun to do, to just sit there and play those songs without giving a fuck that they have to be perfect, but just playing them so that they could be recorded, you know, to use when the band's playing live. By the way, the Cute Lepers, they do a really good version of Lonely Boy on this record. So if you haven't heard it yet, check it out. It's really, really good. And also, this album is so cool. It comes with 3D glasses. The cover's in 3D. How awesome. So anyway, thank you once again for watching another episode of the Long Gone Loser Rock Show. I hope you have the best day ever. Go out and buy some records, whether they're Sex Pistols records or any other record. Just go out and buy some records, because buying records is awesome. And I will see you again soon for another episode. God knows what I'll talk about. It won't be the Sex Pistols though, because I've done it. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, take care of each other and look out for yourselves, okay? Bye-bye.